I actually came to school here without a major.
I had a camcorder that you had to attach to a VCR and carry the VCR with you to go film your project.
How to get a job? I had no idea.
Hello and welcome to our Radio TV Film Industry Panel. I'd like to welcome the students, faculty, and staff, and the alumni to our panel today. I'm Randall Davidson. I'm the Director of Radio Services here at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, and I'll be your moderator today. We'll introduce our alumni for today's panel, starting from left to right. Jay Sapiro is President of Visuality, an award-winning full-service media strategy and production firm that has offices in both Madison and in Boston. Jay holds a bachelor's degree in mass communication from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, as well as a master's degree in advertising from Miami University. His work at Visuality has been recognized by the American Advertising Federation, the American Association of Political Consultants, the National Education Association, the International Television Association, and the Design Council of America, among others. Jay has been recognized by In Business magazine as a top executive in their 2010 Executive Register and in their 40 Under 40 list, which features the leaders of tomorrow. Angela Vondrasek is a senior writer and producer with TNT On-Air Creative in Atlanta. There she has held the roles of associate producer and writer-producer. She is currently the lead producer for the Closers on-air campaign, which includes promos that lead up to the season's premiere along with weekly topicals. She's also worked on Hawthorne, Saving Grace, and Southland. Kevin Warenberg is currently working on the ABC summer hit show Wipeout as co-executive producer. He's also currently co-executive producer of a pilot for ABC called 101 Ways to Leave a Game Show. Prior to Wipeout and 101, Kevin worked on the hit NBC show Fear Factor. He's worked on many different television shows, which have ranged from Unsolved Mysteries to later with Greg Kinnear. And Sarah Willett is an advertising expert with over 20 years in the marketing and advertising field. Many of those years have been spent helping clients grow their business and position themselves as market leaders in their category. Sarah's been called on by the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Radio Advertising Bureau as a speaker on various aspects of recruitment and event marketing. Sarah is currently employed as a key account manager by Cumulus Media and based in the Appleton, Oshkosh, and Green Bay markets. She focuses on helping clients grow their business by identifying their unique attributes and brand essence. Sarah also works hand in hand with advertising agencies helping execute their media plan on a local level. And she's also a contemporary of mine here at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. We were on the staff of WRST at the same time. She was station manager, and I worked for her. We'd like to welcome everybody here. We'd like to thank you all for being with us today. And to get things started, we'll talk about what inspired you to go into the industry. First, what made you decide you had a passion for media, and why did you choose to pursue this major at UW-Oshkosh? Let's start with Jay.
My background, really in high school, I decided that I enjoyed being in television and working in television and media. No internet yet then, really, to speak of. But I learned early on that I wanted to work in television and in some form of media, which is rare to find something you like to do in high school and see it through college right away. And UW-Oshkosh really helped me kind of fulfill all of that.
Angela?
I knew when my parents told me that there were shows on television that I couldn't watch, and I would sneak at night into the hallway and watch the reflection of Twin Peaks in the mirror. And I knew that I wanted to work in television then. But I had a great program in high school too. And I knew right away that I wanted to get involved in high school, and so I came into Oshkosh too knowing I wanted to major in radio, TV, film, and it's just what I've always known since I was a kid.
Actually, I fell in love with Miami Vice in 9th grade, and that's I knew that I wanted to work in TV, and actually I was intending on going to UW Stout because I thought they had a TV program. Went to the college fair down at UW Eau Claire. And I went up to the table, and the guy said, yeah, we fix TVs. That's what we have. And then, so I went with a buddy who was going to Oshkosh, and they said, we have a great program. And came over here and toured. That's how I ended up at Oshkosh. So,
Sarah?
For me, when I was in high school, I went on this crazy ride-along with a news field reporter and his photog, and it was nutty the whole day. And afterwards, they said, "You still want to go into this business?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I do." And I kind of researched it and found that UWO had a really good communications program, really good radio, TV, film program. So I came here and met people like yourself, Randall, and just found radio to be incredibly accessible and just went from there. So.
Was there anyone that helped you with your passion for media? Starting with Jay.
Here at UW Oshkosh?
Or in your life generally?
Yeah, I think the people that you surround yourself with. I mean, you end up gravitating with the folks that you know that have similar interests. So the people that I would collaborate with when it came to paid or any kind of media ended up being the folks that I just stayed with. But here, you know, the professors all. It wasn't difficult to find a professor, more than one, to just kind of really work with to help feed that passion.
Yeah, I mean, when I was here, I felt like I was surrounded by people who were passionate about the same thing as me. So, I mean, you just made great friends who, I mean, all of my friends to this day, my closest ones are still classmates from UW Oshkosh, radio, TV, film specifically. And it just, everyone is such a great support team and everyone's interested in the same thing. And I just think that together you kind of build that passion and support each other and of course the professors too.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, I was pretty close with most of the professors, and Bill downstairs too. I helped wallpaper his baby's bedroom. So, you know, so I mean, I think I had a lot of guidance from the professors here at the university, and then I was an intern to the Television Academy program, and the person who hosted my internship was clearly my mentor, and you know, got me to where I am today. So.
When I found out that you could actually sleep at the radio station, then I knew that you'd get to know people pretty well and on a whole different level. Same thing, everybody said. I mean, you do gravitate toward people that you share the same interest with, and the professors, there wasn't a one that you couldn't get access to anytime that you wanted it. It was great.
Since you all have a passion for the industry and it led you to the RTF program, and you came here with this passion, did you get involved right away, and what were some RTF organizations you got involved in, starting with Sarah?
My memory is really, really poor, but I was involved with the radio, TV, film sorority fraternity on campus here at the time, and I can't remember the name of it, but I did get involved in that, so I'm blanking on that. But the main thing for me was just getting plugged into the radio station. I lived there, you know, half the time, and that's what I did.
In my freshman year, I went. They used to be. They don't have it anymore, which I think they should. But the convo class, which we were required to attend, and they needed they needed volunteers to work a radio shift, the classical shift, from like 9 to 11 or whatever it was. And I raised my hand, you know, because I thought initially I wanted to be in radio. I was way off on that. But I showed up and did a shift, and you're both radio people. They left me kind of there by myself, and I had to call my roommate to see if I was still on the air. But you know, but I got involved pretty quickly in the major. So.
I was part of the very first telethon, so that was one of the very first things that I worked on. That was actually, I think, my sophomore year was the first one. And before that, I worked at Titan TV right away on a show called Kitty Crafts, where we had some kids making crafts and accidentally swallowing bubbles. Lots of fun memories there. But yeah, probably the telethon was the biggest thing, though. And I know that's still, I think it's coming up next month again, right? I don't know what year, how many it's been now, but a lot. So.
Yeah, I got involved right away, and I think that was part of the what attracted me to UW Oshkosh, and that you had hands-on experience, and they really allowed that. So I did Titan TV, same thing. I can't remember the name of the fraternity, the sorority that kind of dealt specifically with the industry.
Yep,
but the fact that it was AERO, that was very good. See? Having the ability to get involved and to work on shows and to make mistakes, I did that right away. A lot of those things, most of the mistakes, but that helps quite a bit.
And can you share perhaps a favorite class, and then maybe a really funny story or memory from your time here? One
of mine, I did the radio thing as well. I DJ'd. I was horrible at it, and I was so bad at it that it was a jazz show, and that's how bad it was. And I couldn't pronounce any of the names of any of the artists, and I was just butchering them. And I was at the radio station. I thought I was doing pretty well, and the phone rang, and it was Doc. If you know who Doc was. Doc called me up and corrected me, and then started naming off everyone who I said was incorrectly all the names, and then he said, "Who's coming up next?" And I butchered all their names. He's like, "That's not right." And I went through the names, and I thought I did pretty well. And the phone rang again. It was Doc again. He's like, "That wasn't right." So, that was a good experience. It showed me that somebody's listening, but that he cared enough to correct me.
Favorite class or favorite memory?
Oh,
Funny
gosh.
story?
Favorite memory, probably, I think I spent 3 nights sleeping on the purple couches up in one of the edit suites while working on the telethon. I'm sure many of you have probably slept on the same couch. I hope that in these years it's been clean since then, because I think it was dirty back then. But just like the crazy hours and, having the cleaning lady walk in while you're sleeping on the couch, and then you're like, no, just give me 5 more minutes. I have to head down to class. I'll be out of here real quick. But just walking down here then for producing and directing.
Well, Jay took my story because I was doing classical, so I got the same phone calls.
He listened to
But honestly, I mean, what I loved is that there was Al Folker had a class. I forget what it was called. It was like cable management or something like that. But that class was a great class. But I mean, all the TV and film classes were great. I went on both sides. But so those were in regard to favorite memory. It was, I guess, maybe it wasn't a TV or film thing, but it was sharing Domino's pizza with Dwight down in Master Control.
Favorite class, again, there were a lot of them, and I spent a lot of time also in the business department, so there was a lot. I felt like I led a double life when I came here, but for whatever reason, this class jumps out at me all the time, and it was a class that Doug Heil taught. Advertising, I think it was, where we had to produce and write and direct our own radio TV commercial, and all the things that we went through to actually get that thing done. It was a good time. And then a funny story has to do with doing some classical announcing, and no problems with the pronunciation on that particular day, but I couldn't get the record. We used records then. I couldn't get the record off the turntable. It was stuck on, and I had to go find Ben Jarman to pry it off because I couldn't flip it. It's like, we have dead air, and I can't get it turned, so.
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties,
That's the
please
word,
stand by.
Very good. We know you're passionate about radio and TV film, and you're passionate about this program. Is there something you wish you could have taken or otherwise learned in college that you didn't have a chance to do, starting with Sarah?
I would have liked to have completed my business major because I was so close. I have a business minor, but I would have liked to have completed the major.
I mean, I felt like, clearly once I got to Los Angeles, I realized that, you kind of start over, and it's sort of a learned process when you get out there. But, I felt that I had a good, amount of grounding or, initial information from the classes I had here to get me to, where I got.
I wish I would have taken more of Doug's classes, more writing classes, more film classes. I concentrated. I did take some of the writing classes, but it was most, more on television and that sort of thing. But that's.
While I was involved with a lot with the television and radio and film production side, I think I probably would have. I wish I would have done a little more with preparing myself as I finished up my 4 years here. There's so much opportunity to have a hands-on experience, to create reels, to put things together, to have demos. I went on to school ultimately, but I think I really wish I would have spent more time developing more media for my use that I could use exiting school.
And then tied into this, what you wish you would have taken or learned in college, were there organizations or activities that augmented your college career or that you wish you'd had more time to get involved in?
Not necessarily. It's kind of I'm a broken record. Just I think the opportunity to participate and to create is so valuable. I just wish I would have done more of that, and that's something that I would say to folks who are in school now to really take advantage of it, because when you leave, you'll find that's a rare opportunity, and that's valuable. There's real value to that.
I love being a member of MBS. I thought that was a great organization to be involved with, at least when I was there. I'm not sure how what the relationship with MBS is now, but when we were a part of it, we were constantly, doing work, on our own, but that you could submit and, be recognized for it, and just having a leadership role in it too was great, and preparing, for now. It helped with a ton with organization and just a lot of really great life skills.
Honestly, I mean, I was involved with just about every organization there was here outside of AE Road. That was about the only thing I don't think I did. But the big thing for me was probably that I didn't really do an internship until after I was out of college, and I wish that I probably would have done a little bit more of that during the period of in between the years. So.
Internships are really key. That was the biggest thing for me, and even trying to delve more into that would have been it, because I realized once I had done that how quickly the doors had opened for me.
We, in the radio TV film area here, require everyone to take a minor in addition to majoring in radio TV film. I know, Sarah, you were a business minor. I'd like to ask each of you, how did your minor or the classes outside RTF influence your career path?
Well, tremendously. I knew early on that I wanted to go into the business side of media, and it happened to be radio, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And to be thinking in terms of a dollars and cents approach to the art that you're putting out there is really, really key. And they had sales classes before we had them in radio, TV, film. I think we may have had one. I'm not sure, but they had more over in the business department. And that was really, really helpful to go through that process and practice it as if it were a real world experience.
What was your minor?
Didn't have one.
Didn't have one.
It wasn't required when I was here.
Okay.
So,
what classes outside the major then were useful for your career?
I don't remember any of them, actually, honestly. I mean, it's like, the major for me was, I would say business because what I do is, I'm a line producer with a good title. But, but I don't know that would have helped me greatly because it doesn't really translate too much over into our industry. So for me, actually, I just shot a pilot down in Argentina. So I would say I wish I would have probably minored in Spanish.
My minor was religious studies, so it hasn't helped me at all.
Fair answer.
The other classes that I took, I enjoyed. I tell my daughter that, I kind of like high school, I like college a lot, and I love grad school because I enjoyed going to school, and I enjoyed the process of like world religions, business classes, art history. I just enjoyed it, and I think when we talk to new employees, we always ask what informs their sense of design and how they see the world, and I try to figure out how that'll relate to a job. But I find that having those experiences in college helped shape me, and it's nice if you can kind of articulate that when you get out of school to say all these things tie into who I am and what I want to be.
Now, with all of your experiences at UWO, could you tell our audience about your out-of-classroom experiences, pre-professional jobs or internships that maybe helped you get to where you are today?
When I was here, I did an internship at a radio station. I think it was WOSH, and did copywriting and some internships. And I think everyone has mentioned it. It's valuable to have these internships because you might not end up working there, but you might find the people that you're going to work with, and you might connect with them in another way. I took advantage of the public access channel. I worked with John Urban, Nanny Radig, and so that helped a lot as well because that was kind of an extension of what was going on here in my mind, and that proved to be very valuable.
I actually interned at OCAT with John Urban and Andy Radig while at school. I did internship at Turner. That's how I ended up getting the job that I have now. And
was that during college or after?
I interned during college.
Okay.
I took a summer and I went down to Atlanta and interned down there and came back and finished school. Kept the contacts that I had made there, and it's still, after I moved down there, I moved down without a job. It still took a year to get back in, even with contacts. So, I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like without it. So, I mean, that's how valuable it is to, meet people.
Wow. Your internship or part-time job or anything like that?
I mean, my internship is what led me to be able, that's what got me started in Los Angeles. It was a production management category through the TV Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. So it's a great program. I highly recommend that any student should apply for it because it's a great program. It's actually a paid internship. But that's what opened the door. And, just in this industry, I mean, it's who you know. It's what you know, but you need to know somebody to be able to apply what you know. So.
An AM/FM combo. I interned on air, and I was crazy enough, or they were crazy enough, to let me intern in sales, and they didn't really know how to handle it. They said, well, here's all the accounts that nobody can sell, and we'll just pay you 25% of whatever you can actually dig up. And that was great. I mean, I got my butt kicked many times, but I learned before I even got out of college, okay, this is what it's like. And I had a job 4 days later after I graduated, making good money.
Now, you all have different experiences with internships, and how do you recommend pursuing an internship? Should a student maybe stay in Wisconsin, or should they try for Los Angeles or New York? Starting with Sarah.
Well, in my industry, which is the radio industry, you're not going to get in the door a medium, large medium, or major market. It's really not going to happen if you're going to go into sales. So my recommendation would be is to hit for a market like this size in Oshkosh, Appleton, possibly Green Bay, or even one a little bit smaller, and cut your teeth and earn your chops and get out there. And you have to produce a resume that shows that I can sell, and I can sell consistently over long periods of time. And once you do that, you get, maybe you do that for a while, somebody's going to start looking at you, and then you can start to move up. But they're not going to really look at you unless you've tried it.
Honestly, if you email me and you're from Oshkosh, I'll give you an internship. I mean, that's.
Oh, Kevin, that's not the air now.
But it's you and
tapes you.
I know, but I have 7 people from Oshkosh working on my show. So I mean, it's I definitely do my best to hire people on my show. As long as I have a position open or an internship, I'll host somebody from Oshkosh. So you got to. First off, I used to have to call people. I was telling Jay this earlier. I was like, I had to call people when I got out of school. You can actually just email it. It's less rejection.
I'd say the most important part is just getting an internship. I did 3. Your first internship, I think if you do something local, it might even help you to get a better internship in a bigger city. I used to select the interns for my department and hire our trainees. And a lot of times we would look for prior internships before we brought them into Turner. So if you had interned, at a local station here, or, someplace, with a production company around here or whatever, that would be an asset for you getting an internship at Turner. And actually, Turner internships, when I interned, they were free. This is the first year they've actually started paying, so we can offer paid internships.
Well, clearly the other big thing about the internships is, if you go for the people that actually graduated from here and try to get an internship through those people, just people in the certain areas that you want to be in.
Mm-hmm. Internships, I would encourage people to be an intern. I came here years ago. I spoke at a class, and Andy Rabin came and interned with me, and he's been working for me for 14 years. I have numerous graduates working for me now, and even folks that I've tapped from here, even Bill Kirchhoff didn't work for me, but has helped us out quite a bit with all of his talents when we started the company.
And what skills do you look for, or what skills do you think students should need to develop in college that will help them succeed in this industry?
The skills are important. The technical skills are, of course, important, but it's the interpersonal skills. I mean, we've had good interns and bad interns, and good employees, bad employees. It's just a matter of showing up on time, being respectful, thinking about what's next, keeping your head in the game, making sure you're interested in what you're doing. It's just so basic how you can impress and stand out that I think a lot of students just don't realize that. They maybe just focus too hard on one technical skill, but then they don't think about how they're interacting with the rest of the world. And for a business owner, that's key, because they'll interact with my clients and with, on a set, and how they act impacts me. So if they can prove that they do a good job, then they stay on.
I'd say be well-rounded, because what's going to make you successful and help you get a job is when someone asks you, can you do this? You say, yes, I can. Just have as many experiences as you can, because you never know. You may have an idea in mind what you're going to do after college, but you may end up somewhere completely different because you had a skill that was an asset to somebody else. And maybe it wasn't exactly what you wanted to do, but if it keeps you working in the industry, it's a great step in the right direction.
I mean, for me, it's really work ethic. Organizational aspects, if I have somebody that comes out as an intern and they're, go getter and they're, asking what they can do next or whatever, and have complete follow through, eventually they'll get hired as a production assistant and move up through production or in whatever department that they're interested in working in. So it's really just follow through and being, conscientious of what their surroundings are.
Sarah?
Being accountable, being persistent. I think, Jay, you mentioned anticipate needs, think on your feet. I don't know as they necessarily teach that, but I think if you are conscious of it and apply it, especially as a young person, we older folks really take notice of that, and want to help those people because so many don't, and you can really shine.
We've touched on this a little bit. I'd like to kind of almost hear a little bit of a resume. What was your first professional job out of college? And you've touched on this, Sarah. Just we'll kind of go through that and just how was it maybe different than what you planned? And did you take the first one, or did you hold out for something a little more kind of the direction you were shooting for? Starting with Sarah.
I was able to slide into a job right where I was interning, so it was just really, really easy. And for me, the money was good, the situation was good, and I thought, this is going to be a great stepping stone and see where it takes me.
Well, my first job out of college, I graduated in December, so I had applied to the internship, and I also applied to AFI. I eventually got accepted into both, but my first job was working at Blockbuster Video down in Illinois. But I mean, actually, if you're really looking for the first job, but out there, and in Los Angeles, is working on just post production on some miniseries back then. So.
Logging tapes for a reality show, watching women flush dog poop down the toilet with a roll of paper towels and freaking out about it being clogged. Just watching people do the most ridiculous stuff and having to sit there and think, God, these people are getting paid so much more than me to be stupid and being depressed.
My first job out of college, it was different. I think it was a little different. I went from here right to graduate school, and graduate school applied aggressively. And so I was fortunate in that I got a job running a production firm right out of college, out of graduate school. And not that I didn't apply to a number of places, but that was my first position.
In this market, is a good resume enough to get a graduate in the door these days, or what are you looking for in your industry?
Well, I guess it kind of depends on what I'm hiring for. In my firm, we have television, radio, web, print, and strategists and buyers and that. So it depends on what they're doing, but a good resume might get you an interview, maybe. But beyond that, the good references, if it's for, let's say, an editor, a good reel, good follow-up, and it's the interpersonal skills. I mean, just all the little things with an interview still goes back to after you interview, send a note, say thank you, follow up, but don't be too aggressive. There's just so many obvious things that can help you get the job, but a resume alone to answer your question won't get it. But I'll tell you what you won't get is an interview if there's one mistake on a resume, because it shows there's no attention to detail.
Not at Turner. You pretty much need to submit a real writing sample. I mean, again, depending on what department, but for us, like I said, I used to be the one responsible for picking out our new trainee and our interns. And if you just sent a resume, it's really hard to differentiate it from every other resume you got. I mean, it'll look, you can have great stuff on it, but if you send me a writing sample and you send me a reel, you're definitely going to stand out. And even once it gets narrowed down, you're brought in for writing tests, or they send you a pack in the mail and you have to write promos, and sometimes they'll even have you come in and cut a spot. So I would say you need more than the resume, at least for my area.
I have a question. If you got a resume that had there was a student from Oshkosh, would you meet with him?
I always would set Oshkosh aside. But yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have a contact from that university, you should always utilize that.
But it's, I mean, that's honestly I mean, for me, it's we when we hire people, unless it's an internship. I mean, you start out as a production assistant. That's generally the way you start out in our industry, and most of those people come through somebody that knows somebody. Like, and anytime we're hiring any position, we contact the people that we know and says, hey, does anybody have a good production coordinator that's looking for work? That's the way it works. It's all about how you know. Then they send the resume, and we look at the resume, but generally that'll get them a meeting no matter what, who they know. So.
I think you get more Oshkosh people though out in LA than we get in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I just hired a guy.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. If you know an Oshkosh person, you probably got an extra foot in the door.
On your resume, you need to be specific that you want a job in sales and that that's what you're going to put your heart and soul into. Sometimes people meld this with, well, I do some production on the side or I do some announcing. Really, what we're looking for in the sales department is looking for someone that can go out and do the job, and you need to get up and running. I think that's been that way on the production side. Pretty much you need to come with some skills. You need to be able to do that right away. More and more with sales now, companies don't have time to train you as long as it really takes. And I think it really takes a year to get up and running. So if you can get some sort of selling experience, I don't care if it's in retail, if you can get some business experience, that is wonderful. Take business classes, take selling classes, look at the curriculum across all of the majors and platforms and find out what you can extract there that might help you to show that, hey, I'm serious about this. I want to be doing this, because for many, many years, sales in the broadcast industry's particular radio was something that sometimes people kind of accidentally fell into. And now it's much more of a purposeful pursuit, and you want to make sure to communicate that to the employer.
And this kind of leads to my next question. You kind of touched on it, and there's a lot of people watching this and listening to this who are either graduating coming up in December or they're graduating in May. How has the current economy affected the job market, particularly in media positions? We'll start with Sarah.
Well, we certainly have had bumped our knees the past couple of years. I think radio is in a good position because it's an affordable medium to buy. So there have been ad dollars that have been switched there and moved there, but likewise there's been ad dollars that have been moved to more interactive approaches. So right now things seem to be in the upswing in the ad industry. I think it's a pretty good time if somebody's going to take a risk on you, because it costs employers thousands and thousands of dollars just to take a risk on you. But if they think that you're a good candidate, then they may be more likely to do that now, I think.
I mean, the big thing that's happening is most, out in Los Angeles, is that most of the companies are owned by corporations. So in turn, the corporations are trying to, keep their budgets in line. But honestly, I think that what is the number 2 or number 3 exporter of this country is media. So, there's always going to be entertainment. So I mean, this industry actually is always going to be around. There's always going to be TV. So I mean. My show just got picked up for 8 additional episodes. We're doing 24 episodes now. So I mean, so clearly there's a need for, our medium. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when there's a bad economy, a lot of people turn to television because it is a cheap form of entertainment. And working in cable now, we're in a really good position. We're hiring, and we've just been. I mean, a lot of you probably have read about the competition between broadcast and cable ad dollars, and cable is doing really well right now, so it's a good place to work.
And with media firms, same thing. I mean, the economy, we haven't felt that kind of squeeze, and I think in our industry, people are still taking in media. I mean, kind of like what Kevin's saying. I mean, that people need this. And even people wonder about the TV side of things, but people who can produce quality programs, it'll play on the web, it'll play on TV, it'll play in different kinds of media. There's that whole convergence thing that people need well-produced media and well-produced clips to go in different areas.
And what advice would you have for people that are new to the industry, specifically students and specifically those from the Midwest?
That are new to
media studies or that are interested in getting involved in media? What advice would you provide?
I would say figure out what aspect. I mean, because there's so much, at the pre-production side, there's the scripting side, there's sales, there's producing, there's everything. And I think so many people when they think of media, they think of production and producing, but there's just so much more that goes on, from the management side to engineering, like I said, to sales, everything, and at UW-Oshkosh, you can find that track and kind of stay with it and then use that to get a job. I just say, unless you take advantage of what you have and figure out what you like and don't like, it's a lost opportunity. I mean, so basically the key there is take advantage of the opportunities.
I'd say, yeah, find what you're passionate about. I said before, be well-rounded, but be passionate about it, because it's not always easy, and you're going to be in, situations where it's hard to get a job, and, and maybe what you're doing, is really tough. But if it's something that you enjoy and you're passionate about it, it's going to help you out a lot.
Well, I always tell everybody that works for me that they'll be unemployed for at least 6 months at some point in their career. And with that information, it's because I actually restarted my career. I was a grip electric for like 2 years of my life, and I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do, but you needed to make money. And so eventually I was able to restart my career and got me on the path I am now. But, honestly, it's, I will always tell anybody who comes in an interview for me, I always ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, they usually have they always say they want a director, right. But it's like, and when you choose that first job, or when you're able to get on a track, you want to definitely choose the track that's not going to pigeonhole you. If you go into post initially, you're a post PA and you're going to work your way up through post, you're probably going to be a post most of your life. Casting, same thing. You kind of, so once you start that path, you need to make a decision early on if that's not the path you want to be on.
Yeah, at some point you do have to, focus in, but I agree with the comments about sampling. I just sample classes in the major, classes outside the major, as much as you can to really find out what you like to do, because once you do get on that path, then that's where you're going to be.
Last year on this panel, we had asked the question, what particular thing you wished you learned in college that would have really served you well in that first job? And one of the panel members said it would be really valuable to know how to fill out a FedEx air bill, because that was the kind of thing he had as a production assistant. He was doing a lot of shipping, and he needed to fill out a lot of air freight bills. Is there some particular thing you didn't get during your college time that would have been extremely useful in that first position? We'll start with Sarah.
The FedEx bill makes me laugh because I get it. We were just converting to computers and fax machines, so any information in that area at that time of my life would have been great. Boy, I think I've touched on a lot of it. I don't know if I have anything specific to add.
I would say networking, being able to understand. Clearly that's happening right now because we're all giving our opinions of what we think would be best. But I mean, it's knowing how to talk to future or possible employers and being able and how to reach out. It's a lot easier now than it was back when because same thing I didn't have computers. Didn't have fax machines or anything. So.
I agree with Kevin. Polish up your communication skills, and networking is so important, and you don't really realize it. I mean, you do, but you're not really good at it till later.
Yeah, the networking thing, and then also planning. Earlier on, I think my sophomore year or so, Dr. Thorpe, who was here, talked about what's next with me a little bit, and that helped me plan to go on to graduate school. So thinking ahead, even though nobody really wants to, but just kind of look down the chessboard a little bit.
I'd like to also ask a question kind of about the, just about the competitive nature of this business. Have any of you found it difficult to compete against people who've graduated from other universities, ones that perhaps have a little more prestige in the industry?
No, because we usually just crush them. Just kidding. No, I don't think so. I think that I think once you get a job, once you work with different folks, you really have your own brand. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you do it well, no matter where you went to school. I'm not sure there's a big deal with that. Maybe It could be maybe in different areas of the country in that, and a little bit maybe at Boston office, some folks kind of get into that a little bit, but it's not a huge thing.
I don't think so either. I was hired in the same crop of people and a trainee position, and with people from Emory and Brown, all working in the same role, and I was paid a lot less for my education, but was doing the same job.
Yeah, in LA, there's a decent alumni, USC, AFI, NYU, Emory, so there is that, the alumni tend to hire people that went to their schools. So, I'll be honest, I don't hire anybody from USC, AFI, UCLA, NYU.
And you're on camera.
Oh, they know it. It's very, my boss is from USC, and I get a lot of, guff for that. But, honestly, when I was doing my internship at NBC, the TV Academy, there was somebody that went that was an exec there, and she got a resume one day, and it came in from AFI, and I just happened to be standing there when it came through the fax machine, and she pulled it out and she looked at it, and she's like, AFI, and she turned to me and goes, don't ever hire anybody from AFI. Now, and the primary reason for that is a lot of people that come out of those schools have a sort of expectation of what sort of jobs they should do or what they're suitable for. And that's just because they paid $100,000 for going to school. But that's just my opinion. But
I don't feel that there's any problem at all competing with anyone from any other university, and I think there's actually an advantage because, at least when I went here, and I believe that it's still true, it's really what you guys make of it, and the classes and how you build your resume while you're here. Classes, internships, jobs, whatever, makes the total package that you're selling, palatable.
I just want, if I could add one thing.
Sure.
I've never looked at, in anyone I've ever hired, it's never come down to where they went to school. I've never thought, I have a choice between candidate A or B, where did they go to school? It really is how they were, how impressed with the resume at first, and then there are all the other things we talked about that build into it. If they didn't go to, if they didn't go to school, if they didn't have a college degree or whatever, that might play into it. But where they went, it's never been a deciding factor.
When staying with this notion of getting those jobs, any of you have any really good job opening resources you'd like to share? Ways that students can places they can look for job openings? Any good resources that you know of?
To look for job openings, I know that folks from my web departments and video posts both are on MCAI, and I believe that used to be ITVA. And I think that seems to be good. There's a lot of networking. I get people that contact me through them. I think just it comes down to networking. It comes down to showing up at some of these associations that people are part of, at events, and just being out there.
I always went to the actual websites of the companies I knew I was interested in working for. A lot of times they'll have the most updated job listings rather than the outside like Monster, all that stuff is. I think that's kind of useless. But like if I would go to HBO, I would go to the Time Warner site and just see all the listings there, and then try and find out if there was an alumni there, someone that were alumni there that could be contacted.
And now, did you, when you were at TNT, did you have to go through human resources? Because a lot of like in Los Angeles, if you're applying to jobs at Warner Brothers or something like that, almost everything on a lower level, assistant job or anything like that, you have to go through human resources.
Yeah, there's a lot of like technicalities at Turner where even that's what I was saying. It took me a year still to get in there, even though I had great contacts. Yeah, there were all these, like the job had to be posted for a certain amount of time, even if there was a candidate already selected. So sometimes that job will be out there, and
it's already filled.
That it's already filled.
Yeah, it's very common. For me, I mean, in LA, we if I have an opening and nobody can recommend somebody, we post on realityjobs.com. Tons of jobs get posted there, and then there's also showbizjobs.com. Those two websites. But reality, I mean, if you clearly reality is a large business, and it's a little easier to get into reality than it is to get into scripted. You know.
Pretty easy to get a sales job, and especially in an entry-level market, if you network, you knock on the doors, and you can be persistent. You want to be nice about it and friendly, and have good follow-up. But I just would start looking at stations or places that you want to work and educate yourself about them, and start calling on them and trying to get through to get, either internship or a job. In sales, it's really rare. Nobody hardly ever asks for sales internships, by the way. I don't think that sometimes employers know what to do with these people. It's still developing, but if you're persistent, you can get your foot in the door.
And now I'd like to kind of turn we've been giving a lot of advice here, but I'd like to focus on that. For a question first for Sarah, Jay, and Angela, how can students position themselves as market leaders after graduation? We'll start with Sarah.
Position themselves as market leaders after graduation. Well, you have to throw yourself into the job, and that's elementary, but you have to live it and breathe it. When I started, that's all I did was work night and day, night and day, night and day, to get myself to a level to where I was recognized locally, then to get to myself to a level where I was recognized nationally, was being asked to speak on panels nationally and talk about certain topics within the sales industry and the radio industry. And the only way I know, and maybe it's just really simple, but the only way I know is just to excel at your job, and then look for other opportunities that give you some visibility. Sometimes through NAB and RAB conventions, you can do that. And if you work for a company, sometimes that's kind of built in, and they recognize people, and they have award programs and things like that, and it just sort of is a snowball effect if you keep at it.
Well, I still feel pretty new at this, but we're just, when I moved down to Atlanta, I got in, like I said, I was doing the tape logging, and then got in at Georgia Public Broadcasting and made great contacts there, and then was able to move up to Turner, but just by, busting my butt, really, is just working any hours on anything that I was asked to do, and people start to recognize your hard work, and I mean, that's really what leads to the next level.
Yeah, I would agree. Hard work. I mean, with working long hours, with going through grad school and then starting the company, just sleeping at the studio, staying there all the time, always being out there, being very, very aggressive with what you do, and then your follow-up, make sure what you send out is polished. People will recognize it, but you have to be very, very aggressive.
And for Kevin, what would be your advice to students wanting to pursue a career as a producer in television?
Well, you're not going to get that job right away. You have to work your way up to it. So, honestly, if you want to work in Hollywood, and that's, and on something, basically you got to move out there and, use your networking skills, use your alumni, and you start at the bottom. You're going to work hard. Some of my first jobs, I worked 27 hours, as a PA. So it's just, and that gets noticed very quickly, by people. And once that happens, then that opens the doors even further. So. And
on the flip side of that, does poor performance get noticed as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Usually before a good performance.
Yeah, we bring PAs out, and we'll, because you started as a PA, or maybe a casting assistant or something. But we bring a PA out, and we'll fire them after the first day if they suck. Honestly, that's how it works.
Well, one of my positions here at UW Oshkosh, I'm the internship coordinator for the Radio TV Film.
You and I have never talked.
We've never talked, but here's the thing. We tell students that, don't be surprised if you're doing, they might be testing you, is what we say, if they give you some kind of menial task. Is that the case?
When you're starting out as an internship or a PA, it is menial tasks. There's interns. Patrick Bryan, who just graduated from here a few years ago, Bryce Shear. They came out as interns to the interim break, and Patrick and Nick, another guy from Oshkosh, they had to shovel mud. That was the job, but then they came back, followed up, and they came back, and they all got jobs in my show. So I mean, it's just that's how it works.
Has that been the case at
Yeah, I forgot about an internship I had. There's a Fox affiliate out here that shoveling made me think of it. I had to shovel the snow, just during the internship. But at my company, we've had people. We even stopped having interns for a little while because we would get calls before a shoot. We'd have the crew be ready. Intern had to meet us there to help run prompter or something like that, and they call, and it's funny when you tell the story. It's like, dude, I just can't make it in on time. I'll be there 10 minutes late. It's like, don't bother, and they don't. That's it. So we stopped for a while because it became too much work. You just have to be respectful.
It is what you make it. If you come in and you're interning at Turner, you're going to be working in the tape library. It's the first thing that happens. But if you can do that successfully and manage your time well, you'll end up in the edit suites helping with, original series and stuff like that. You have to be, a lot of them will come in and say, well, I'm only going to do, Monday and Tuesday mornings. And then there'll be, sometimes we'll have 2, and there's another person who's willing to work 5 days a week, a full day, and just really ask you at all times, what do you want me to do? Is there anything else I can help with? And those are the ones that get the best internship experience.
I'd like to open up the discussion now to students and members of the folks assembled here if they have questions for the panel. Any questions?
Doug has a question.
Oh, there's someone with a question over there.
It's a non-traditional student.
On something Angela said, although certainly everyone would be welcome to give their feedback on it. But Angela talked about augmenting the resume with a writing sample and a sample reel. And I'd love to know the do's and don'ts of what you should include, what you shouldn't include, how much to include.
The worst reel I ever got was a girl submitted a resume. She wanted a trainee position at Turner, and the reel she submitted was herself leading a yoga class. She did not produce the video. She did not work she was just leading a yoga class. I would not do that. But think about what you're applying for. If you're applying for, a position in my department, which is on-air creative, and it's short form writing, So if you send me a script for a show that you want to pitch, it's not really going to help in our department. But if you maybe decide, hey, I want to pitch the show, how would I pitch the show? If I were to write a promo for that, or pick a show, write a promo for a show and send that along with your resume. But really tailor it to where you're applying for. As for the reel, if you're going to, obviously, promos aren't necessarily something not when I was here, we didn't focus on all that much. But, for the reel, I would just say good creative work. It doesn't have to be, short form. But for writing samples, I would definitely focus on what the department does.
I would just say with resumes that come in and reels that come in, if it's for post-production, a lot of times when we're evaluating something and talking with the folks in our post-production suites, we won't know exactly what the candidate had done. So if it's a lot of heavy graphics work and then also lots of sophisticated editing, we're not sure if they did the graphics, the animation, or if they did just the cuts. What did they do? And sometimes it gets so confusing, we'll move on to someone else and we'll gravitate toward a person because they'll describe, here's what I did on this, in this short format video, and they describe what they did. That's helpful to me. Then I can evaluate your work, what you did, how you did it. But if I have to guess and think, okay, that's pretty good, but I assume someone else did that animation, then you may have lost out. Be clear, is what I'm saying.
Another question? Nope.
Wait, is this working? Have you ever had any chance where you hit like a roadblock where you almost gave up, and that happened, what kept you moving forward?
Just like a creative roadblock?
Any kind of roadblock, like you were like, I haven't found a job in 6 months, and I'll just give up and go home and start over or something like that. But what kept you moving forward that actually did happen?
Well, from my experience, when I talk to folks about looking for jobs, I think some people think that after a few interviews or sending out a few resumes, they really should have something, and they get either depressed about it or they think, I can't believe I haven't found a job. Even though I had a good experience and I got a job right away, I did send out maybe 3 dozen, letters at that point just to apply for different kinds of jobs. A lot of rejections, but the interviews I went through, that worked out for me. But I think people might have, their expectations might be way too high, thinking that I'll go for a few interviews, I'll talk to a couple people, and I'm sure I'll get the job I want. You just have to persevere and stay aggressive.
I mentioned that I, prepared that if you're in LA, you're going to be out of work for 6 months. That actually happened to me, and I was working on a show called Later with Greg Kinnear. Greg Kinnear became a movie star. He left the show. The job I had basically, went away, and it didn't really translate to the next step for me. I was making decent money. I had, wasn't really, prepared for it. Then during that time was a time that I actually was debating, leaving Los Angeles. My dad told me to get a job at McDonald's. I said I can't work at McDonald's. But eventually, 6 months later, I started that's when I restarted my career as a Grip Electric. So I needed a job.
Other questions?
I was just wondering, Mr. Wareberg, maybe you can talk about this more specifically since you work in LA and maybe Angela since you're in Atlanta. With so many productions nowadays being filmed in other cities like up in Washington, Vancouver, even like in Austin, Texas, and things like that, if you want to get involved in those shows, is there a chance to be involved in television and shows living in like a different market like that, or do you pretty much have to be out in LA and then you're going to get sent out to Austin and Vancouver on those?
You're not going to get sent because they're not going to want to pay your travel expenses. I can tell you that right off the bat. Most scripted shows, though, it's hard to get in on the ground floor. Most scripted shows will have 1, 2, a few PAs on set. They'll probably hire some local people and that kind of stuff. But they don't have a lot of production assistants because they're all union. So on the shows like that, they're all union. First, as a PA, it's hard to move up because it's not, you can't just take a job in post because all the people in post are union. So it's something to definitely consider. Is that's a hard road scripted. That's why scripted is just a little bit more difficult. You can become a writer's assistant in the writer's room. That's not a union position, but you've got to pay your dues in doing that. And getting that job, getting a writer's assistant job on a scripted show, it's hard. It's hard. And so, but you can, yes, you can. Like I know Detroit, there's a lot of stuff, and we've looked into shooting some of our shows in Detroit. But it's, and if we went there as a reality show, yes, you can get new jobs, but there's probably only, there's only so many.
But primarily with a scripted show, if they were to say go to Detroit, it would probably be more looking for.
They're going to hire locals in Detroit because they don't have to pay for hotel, they don't have to pay for airfare, they don't have to pay for per diem. That's that's just.
Atlanta's actually there's some land was just bought. There's a big production studio being built just south of the city, and I would say within the last few years, a lot of shows, well, not a lot compared to LA, but a decent amount have started filming in Atlanta. They've been filming The Walking Dead there, AMC that's premiering this month. A lot of movies for like Family Channel, and I see just some like Joey Lawrence randomly around. None of the cool LA stars. But there is a lot more television work being done in Atlanta now. And I don't know how Kevin would feel about this, but I think if you move to one of those cities where maybe that's just becoming more popular, it might be easier to get.
I think it's either going to be that, or it's going to be the complete polar opposite.
Yeah.
It's going to be that it's going to be a small amount of people that are looking, a large amount of people that are looking for those jobs. So
you'd probably want to be in the city then. You'd want to move there first and then try to get in.
But our last question. One quick, very quick, brief piece of advice. We'll start here.
I go back to be very aggressive and just think logically about these things I mentioned about with resumes, with showing up to work on time, with thinking about what you're doing. Keep your head in the game.
Quickly.
Don't make enemies with the people in this room because chances are you might be working with them in the future.
Trust me, I hold a grudge. Anybody can tell you that. But you got to remember who you're. I just watched the motion picture workshop videos. I know who you are.
Quickly.
Persistence prevails when all else fails.
Well, it's time to wrap up. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our second annual Radio TV Film Industry Panel. The Alumni Open House will be held from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We hope to see you there, and we'd like to thank you all for coming, and thanks to our panel.